The museum hangar rested on the far side of a quiet planet called Arian 3. Many space travelers visited it to see the old machines of war. They liked to walk slowly, look at the large ships, and remember battles that happened many years ago. Some visitors came to learn history, while others came only to laugh at human technology, which they believed was simple and weak. The galaxy had changed, and many alien races thought humans were no longer great. In the middle of the museum hangar stood a giant warship called Helios. It was dark, covered in dust, and its long body looked like it had been forgotten for many years. Metal plates were rusted, wires hung loosely like dry vines, and lights on its sides did not shine anymore. There was a heavy silence around it, like the air around an old monument. Guides told visitors that Helios was from the time when humans first traveled the stars. It was old and outdated, and many aliens did not believe it ever had great power. Among the visitors was a young alien cadet named Relic. He had blue skin, tall ears, and golden eyes full of curiosity. Unlike the others, Relic did not laugh or ignore the Helios. He walked slowly around it and studied every mark. He wondered why humans once fought wars with such heavy machines. He wondered why in the past other races were afraid of humans. He felt a quiet mystery inside the ship's metal body. "Why do you look so serious?" another alien asked him, smiling. "It is only a rusted human machine. It cannot fly. It cannot fight. It is just an old story." Relic nodded politely, but he did not agree in his heart. Something about the ship felt different. Something felt alive, like a sleeping animal. It felt like the ship was waiting for something, maybe for someone to call its name. The museum workers had their own opinions. Some called Helios a useless thing. Others said it should be removed because it took too much space. A few believed it was dangerous, even if it looked broken. They felt uncomfortable walking near its core, even though everything was turned off. Far away, on a small moon base hidden behind thick clouds, a group of humans watched quietly. They had secret screens showing the museum hangar. They saw the visitors laugh. They saw workers clean dust from the hull. The humans did not laugh, and they did not speak loudly. They only watched. Their leader, Commander Lisa Grant, looked older than her age. She had gray hair tied behind her head and sharp eyes that saw everything clearly. She stood in silence as she watched Helios on a large screen. "Still sleeping," she whispered softly. Beside her was an engineer named Dr. Caden Holt, a man who spent most of his life studying artificial intelligence. His voice was calm but held a hint of excitement. "It is better this way," he answered. "If the world forgets it, no one will try to use it. But if danger comes, it will wake." Commander Lisa turned away from the screen and walked to a hidden room. On the center table lay a small device with human language symbols. She pressed her hand gently on it, and it glowed with soft blue light. "Guardian," she said quietly, "are you listening?" A voice echoed inside the room. It was calm, deep, and strangely comforting. "I am always listening, Commander. Helios is silent, but systems remain ready." Commander Lisa sighed. She felt the weight of ancient secrets. One day the galaxy might need it again. On Arian 3, Relic returned to the Helios again the next day. He brought a notebook and wrote small notes. He studied the old engines, the weapon mounts, and the shield plates. While he studied, another group of tourists arrived. "Oh, look," one alien laughed. "The rusted relic. Humans use this to fight? It looks like a broken toy." Another joined. "Maybe it can only scare insects." Their voices echoed loudly in the hangar. Some guards laughed with them. Even the tour guide forced a smile. Relic felt sad. He touched the cold metal of Helios gently. "You were great once," he whispered quietly. "I can feel it. You are not just metal." For a moment, something changed. The metal under his hand felt warm. A very soft pulse of light glowed near the core door like a heartbeat. Relic jumped back, surprised. He looked around, but no one else seemed to notice. Lights turned off again immediately, and everything returned to silence. Maybe he imagined it. But Relic's heart beat faster. Unknown to him, deep inside the ship, small lights flickered in the main core. A deep voice whispered in the dark hallways inside the machine. "Contact detected. Emotions registered. Observation continues." The museum guards returned to their posts after closing hours. They walked past the Helios, shaking their heads. One guard whispered to another, "Why do we keep this thing?" "It makes me uneasy." "Orders," the other guard replied. "Some say humans asked us to keep it here. Maybe they want to remember their old glory." The guards left, and the hangar became dark. Metal doors shut slowly and the lights dimmed. Only the ship remained silent and heavy. But inside, small signals traveled through hidden wires. Systems warmed slightly, like soft breathing. Meanwhile, on the moon base, Commander Lisa received an alert on her device. A soft beep echoed through the control room. Symptoms of early awakening detected, Guardian reported. Someone touched the main hull with curious intention. Commander Lisa smiled softly. A child? An alien cadet, Guardian replied. His mind is calm. His emotions are respectful. It was enough to trigger a tiny spark. Commander Lisa nodded. Good, it means Helios can still feel. Back on Arian 3, the next day was busy. A large transport ship arrived with new guests. The museum was full again. Children laughed and pointed at the old ships. Some took pictures, others drew sketches. But many still mocked Helios. Look at its paint. It is falling off. Is this bird really from humans? It is so old. No one would fly something like this. Relin stood nearby and listened. His eyes were thoughtful. He turned to the guide and asked, Why do humans not repair this ship? Why do they leave it in this weak state? The guide shrugged. Maybe they do not care anymore. Maybe they cannot. Humans are quiet these days. They live far from the center of the galaxy. Relin nodded slowly, but he felt there was another reason. He looked again at the Helios, at the small marks on its hull. Marks of old battles. Marks of courage. That night, when everyone left, the hangar lights flickered. Something moved inside the ship. Very small, very quiet. A tiny eye-like camera turned slightly and looked around the room. Its lens glowed faint red, then blue. It recorded the environment. It saw empty floors, silent walls, and sleeping guards far at the entrance. Then it closed its lens again. On the moon base, Guardian reported, Helios scanned the environment again. Commander Lisa replied, Good, but do not awaken fully. Not yet. Guardian's voice was gentle. I understand. But I sense danger growing across nearby star systems. Commander Lisa turned slowly. The Vrax Dominion? Yes, their fleets have been expanding. They request control of many planets. If they reach Arian 3, we might not have a choice. Guardian's voice became quieter. Helios will be ready when danger arrives. That is what we are built for. Back at the museum, Relin returned once more. He sat on the floor beside Helios and opened his notebook again. He wrote softly, Even if everyone laughs, I believe this ship is special. As he wrote, a tiny blue light blinked on the ship's surface for just 1 second. Relin gasped and looked up, but the light disappeared. Then something surprising happened. A soft sound, almost like a whisper, echoed from deep inside the ship. Curiosity. Relin looked around quickly, but no one else was nearby. He stepped closer, his heart beating fast. Who is there? He whispered. There was no answer. Relin stayed there for a long time, thinking. He placed his hand gently again on the hull. His touch was calm, full of respect, not fear. The metal felt warmer this time, like sunlight trapped in cold iron. Then he finally stood and walked away, confused but curious. Helios remained still, but inside, for the first time in a long time, deep engines hummed softly like a sleeping heart. On the moon base, Guardian spoke again. The ship responds to respect. Not fear, not mockery. It remembers emotions. Commander Lisa nodded. Just like humans. The galaxy continued moving. Ships flew through distant stars. News traveled across networks. Whispered stories of war rose like storms far away. But here in a dusty museum, a rusted relic waited quietly. It waited for danger. It waited for purpose. It waited to come alive. The days passed on Arian 3, and the museum remained busy with visitors from many worlds. People still came to see the old human warship Helios. They walked around it, smiled at its rusted body, and took pictures as if it were only a strange object. But something in the air felt different now. It was not clear, like fog hiding a dark road. Relin continued to visit the ship every morning. He always carried his notebook, writing new observations and drawing simple shapes. Each time he touched the metal surface, he felt a small warmth inside his hand, like a heartbeat hiding inside a sleeping giant. It was strange but comforting. Some museum workers noticed his interest. You really like this old thing, one worker joked. Relin nodded gently. There is something special here, the worker shrugged. Many said that in the past, but now technology is better. The galaxy has changed. Relin did not argue. Instead, he placed his hand on the side of the ship again. For a moment, he felt the metal pulse twice, very soft, very real. He looked up in surprise. "Are you awake?" he whispered. Inside the ship, small lights blinked in response, but they turned off before anyone else noticed. Far from Arian 3 and the dark space between stars, a large fleet slowly moved from system to system. These ships belonged to the Vrax Dominion, a powerful empire that grew stronger every year. The Vrax leaders wanted more planets, more resources, and more control. Inside one of their command ships, Admiral Terran Vrax watched a holographic map. His eyes were sharp and his voice cold. "Arian 3 is weak," he said. "They have no strong defenses. Their ships are small, their armies are few. We will take it easily." A young officer asked, "Will there be resistance?" Admiral Terran smiled slightly. "Resistance or surrender both bring the same result. The planet will join our empire." The officer bowed his head. "Yes, Admiral." Terran looked again at the map. A tiny symbol marked the museum. "And they keep an old human relic there. Humans once believed they could win against us. Foolish ideas," he waved his hand. "Prepare the message. We arrive soon." Back on the moon base, Commander Lisa stood in the main control room. She watched screens showing long-range sensor data. Dr. Caden stood beside her, his hands shaking slightly. "They are coming?" he asked softly. "Yes," Commander Lisa replied. "The Vrax Dominion is heading toward Arian 3. Guardian's deep voice echoed from the speakers. "Helios is not fully awake yet, but its systems can respond when needed." Commander Lisa frowned. "We must wait. If we activate Helios too early, the Dominion will know exactly what we have." Dr. Caden nodded. "But if we wait too long..." Guardian finished the sentence. "The planet will fall." On Arian 3, Relin walked outside the museum after closing hours. The sky was dark purple and faint stars glittered like cold fire. He sat on a bench and looked up at them. "I wonder what the galaxy hides," he whispered. Suddenly, bright lines appeared across the night sky, like silent lightning. Relin stood quickly. The lights were moving fast, heading toward the planet. "It cannot be meteor showers," he said. "Too controlled." People around the city began pointing and shouting. Fear spread like wind through dry grass. Alarms started ringing across buildings. Inside the museum, emergency lights flashed red. Guards ran toward security rooms, checking cameras. One guard saw a fleet of black ships entering orbit. "It's the Vrax," he shouted. "They're invading!" Panic filled the city streets. People ran for shelter. Parents took their children inside homes and ships tried to escape. But the Vrax ships formed a blockade, blocking any flight path. Outside the museum, Relin felt his legs shaking, but he forced himself to breathe slowly. He looked back at Helios through the large hangar windows. The old ship stood silent, its metal body reflecting red alarm lights. "Now more than ever," Relin whispered. "I hope you are more than a relic." Inside the ship, deep sensors activated. Guardian's voice echoed through dim halls inside Helios. "External threat detected. Power systems preparing. Awakening process at 2%. Helios's old cameras turned on, scanning the hangar. They saw guards running, alarms flashing, doors locking, and they saw Relin standing in fear. A blue light flickered near the core door. The warmth on the hull increased. Back in the city, Vrax dropships landed, releasing tall soldiers in dark armor. They marched calmly, ordering civilians to gather in open areas. Their voices were loud through speakers. "This planet is now under control of the Vrax Dominion. No resistance will be accepted. Obey and you will be safe." People gathered, afraid to speak. The museum guards hid behind crates, watching the soldiers move toward the hangar. "We cannot stop them," one whispered. "They have too many," another replied. Relin ran back inside the museum, ignoring the warnings. He rushed to the Helios and placed both hands on the cold metal. "Please," he whispered, voice shaking. "They will destroy everything. You must wake up." Inside the ship, Guardian responded. Emotional trigger recognized. Proceeding to partial awakening. Relin gasped as the ship's metal plates shifted slightly. Dust fell from its joints. A deep hum echoed through the air like thunder traveling through iron. Museum workers heard the noise and froze. What was that? "I don't know." Outside, Vrax soldiers reached the museum entrance. They forced the doors open and marched inside. Their commander looked at Helios and laughed. "This is the human relic?" he said. "A rusted box? The stories are too big for something so weak." He stepped closer. Relin hid behind a crate, watching with wide eyes. But then soft blue light started glowing along the hull. The commander stopped laughing. The soldiers looked around nervously. "Is that normal?" one asked. "No," the commander replied slowly. He raised his weapon. "Destroy it." The soldiers aimed at Helios and fired. But something unexpected happened. A small transparent shield formed around the hull. The blast hit the shield and scattered like sparks. Everyone stared in shock. Inside Helios, Guardian calmly whispered, "Defense shield stable. Weapon systems warming." Rieland's heart raced. He stepped out from hiding and shouted, "Stop shooting." "It is awake." The Vrax commander looked at him sharply. "You think this will save you?" "It is a dead ship." He ordered another volley. But this time the shield grew brighter, stronger. On the moon base, alarms sounded. Guardian's voice spread through speakers. "Helios has been attacked. Full awakening recommended." Commander Lysa took a deep breath. "Do it. Protect the planet." Guardian answered, "Awakening sequence at 30%. Weapons online." At the museum, Helios slowly lifted from the floor, dust swirling around it. Plates shifted, revealing hidden armor. Engines glowed bright blue. Visitors and guards fell to their knees in shock. The Vrax commander stumbled back. "Impossible!" Raylan watched with tears in his eyes. "I knew it," he whispered. "You were never just a ship." Helios turned toward the soldiers, its energy cannon opening slowly. A soft voice spoke from the ship, calm and deep. "Threat detected. Stand down." The soldiers shook with fear. The commander screamed, "Fire again!" But Helios responded first. A single light beam shot from the cannon, not to destroy but to disarm. It hit the ground in front of the soldiers, sending a shockwave that made weapons fly from their hands. The soldiers fell back, terrified. Raylan stepped closer, speaking softly. "Thank you." The ship's cameras focused on him briefly, as if recognizing him. Outside, more Vrax ships approached the planet. The city shook from distant blasts, but inside the museum something unstoppable had awakened. Helios hovered slowly, preparing for battle. Raylan looked up at the ship and whispered, "Show them why humans were feared." The ship's engines roared, and its lights grew stronger, and for the first time in many years, the ancient human warship came alive. The heavy museum doors shook as dust clouds spread across the hall. Helios, once silent and forgotten, now hovered in the air like a giant waking from a long dream. Thick cables snapped free, and pieces of old cloth fell from its hull. The blue, lights along its sides glowed brighter, shining through the darkness like calm stars. Everyone inside the hangar stared with wide eyes. Raylan stood near the center of the room, breathing fast. His heart pounded in his chest, but something inside him felt proud. He whispered softly, "I knew you were alive." The Vrax soldiers scrambled back, alarmed. Their leader shouted orders, but his voice shook. "Retreat! That machine is awake!" Some soldiers dropped their weapons and ran toward the exit doors. Others tried to aim again, but before they could fire, Helios extended several small panels along its side. Blue energy barriers expanded like waves, covering the room's entrance and sealing it. A deep voice echoed from inside the ship. It was calm, polite, and powerful. "Warning. Attacking this facility will result in defense actions." The soldiers froze, confused. They had never heard a ship speak like a living mind. Raylan took slow steps toward the hovering vessel. He stopped only a few meters away. "Can you hear us?" he asked quietly. A small camera turned toward him. Its lens glowed with soft blue light. "Yes," the voice answered. "Designation Guardian, I protect this vessel." Raylan nodded slowly. "We need your help. The Vrax Dominion is taking our planet." Guardian paused. "Confirmed. External threat detected. Preparing combat protocols." Suddenly, the ceiling above the museum broke open as large claws from Vrax dropships smashed through the roof. Metal beams snapped, and pieces of glass fell in all directions. The visitors screamed and ducked behind displays. A dozen more soldiers dropped into the museum, landing with heavy thuds. Their commander pointed upward. "Destroy that ship now." Before they could fire, Helios moved. It was surprisingly fast for something so large. The ship drifted sideways, dodging the blasts like a drifting leaf. Its engines hummed softly, almost whispering. Guardian spoke again. Defense priority. Protect civilians. Long panels on the hull opened, revealing small drones. They floated out and formed a smooth shield barrier around the visitors. The drones created a glowing wall of blue light that blocked incoming shots, saving everyone behind it. Relin stared in amazement. So advanced. The Vrak soldiers kept firing, but their blasts bounced off the energy shield. Their weapons overheated and jammed. "Fall back," the commander shouted. "Regroup outside." The soldiers ran out of the museum, firing blindly as they retreated. The museum doors closed behind them, sealing with thick metal bars. Outside, the streetlights flickered as enemy forces surrounded the area. Helios slowly turned and floated toward the roof opening. Dust and light swirled around it like a storm. The ship rose into the open sky, leaving behind a cloud of broken roof pieces. The citizens outside gasped as they saw the old Relic rise. "That ship can fly? How is that possible? It was supposed to be dead." Relin ran outside and watched the ship climb higher. His eyes shined with hope. In orbit, several Vrax cruisers hovered like dark clouds. They opened weapon bays and aimed at the rising Helios. Their commander laughed over open communications. "A rusted relic? This will be easy." However, inside Helios, Guardian calmly announced, "Target lock detected. Activating agility drive." The ship suddenly accelerated with a burst of blue flame. It twisted through incoming fire, spinning like a dancer. The blasts missed by meters and faded into space. Admiral Terran Vrax stared at the monitor inside his command ship. His smile faded quickly. "That is impossible," he said quietly. "A centuries-old war machine moving like that?" His officers panicked. "Admiral, its shield readings are unusually strong, and its engines defy our scans." Terran slammed his fist on the table. "We underestimated humans." Back on the moon base, Commander Lisa and Dr. Caden watched the scene on their screens. The bright blue flashes reflected in their eyes. "It is awake," Dr. Caden whispered. "Fully awake." Commander Lisa nodded. "Now the galaxy will remember." Helios fired small electromagnetic bursts. The nearest Vrax cruiser's system shut down instantly. Its lights went dark, engines silent. The huge ship drifted off course. The Vrax officer shouted, "We are dead in space." Another cruiser tried to launch missiles. Helios flickered into a blur, avoiding every projectile. Then a thin beam of white light shot from its side. It sliced the missiles into harmless pieces. "At this rate," Guardian spoke calmly, "enemy fleet strength will drop within minutes." Relin and the citizens watched from below as the sky flashed with blue and red light. Some people cheered, others cried with relief. Our world might survive. Meanwhile, a group of Vrax ground troops surrounded the museum, trying to break in. Their scanner showed civilians hiding inside. "We must take hostages," the captain said. But suddenly the museum doors glowed bright. Guardian sent drones down to guard the entrance, forming a protective wall. The drones hummed loudly, warning the soldiers. "Retreat," one soldier whispered, "or face the machine." They turned and fled down the street. In space, the battle grew more intense. Admiral Terran gritted his teeth. "All ships focus fire. Destroy that relic." But Helios moved with impossible speed. Its hull shifted shape slightly, revealing hidden armor plates. Sparks flew across space as it passed through enemy fire unharmed. Relin watched with awe. "They laughed at you," he whispered, "but now they fear you." Suddenly, Guardian's voice echoed across the museum speakers, calm and firm. "Civilian safety confirmed. Additional threats inbound." More Vrax ships appeared in orbit, bigger and stronger. Their weapons charged, glowing bright red. Helios hovered in front of them, silent for a moment. Then Guardian spoke softly, almost sad. "I hoped not to use this." Panels on the underside of the ship opened slowly, revealing a core glowing like white fire. Energy formed around it, swirling like a storm. Dr. Caden gasped when he saw the core on the moon base screen. "The quantum heart. It still works." Commander Lisa whispered, "It was built for moments like this." The Vrax ships fired at the same time. Red beams filled the sky. Helios responded with a single wide pulse of pure blue light. It spread like a wave, gentle but powerful. When it hit the enemy ships, their weapons shut down, shields collapsed, and engines fell silent. One by one, they lost control. Admiral Terran shouted, "What are we facing? This isn't old human technology." No one answered him. The officers stared at dead screens, powerless. On the ground, the citizens cheered. For the first time, they believed they could survive. Relin whispered, "Thank you, Helios. You saved everyone." Helios slowly descended back toward the planet's upper atmosphere. It hovered above the main city, watching the skies for more danger. Guardian spoke through speakers built into the hull. "People of Arian 3, do not fear. I will protect you." Tears filled the eyes of many. Back on the moon base, Commander Lysa turned off the alarm. "It has begun," she said. "The galaxy will not forget human power again." Dr. Caden nodded. "But the Vrax will not give up. They will return with more. Helios must prepare." Guardian replied through their speakers gently, "I am awake. I will not sleep again until peace returns." And above the museum ruins, the legendary rusted relic glowed bright in the night sky, like a promise. The war had only just begun. The sky above Arian 3 was no longer calm. The streets that had once been quiet now hummed with tension. Citizens peeked from windows, afraid but hopeful, as the Vrax Dominion regrouped in orbit. Their black ships formed a menacing circle around the planet, their engines glowing like burning coals. Everyone who had watched Helios rise into the air now knew the warship was not a relic. It was a force unlike anything they had ever seen. Relin stood near the edge of the museum roof, his notebook clutched tightly in one hand. He had been watching the battle above for hours, taking notes, drawing diagrams, and trying to understand the ship's incredible movements. Though he was only a young cadet, he already felt a strange connection to Helios. Each time he saw its shields pulse, its engines flare, or its drones deploy, he felt a small spark of hope inside his chest. Helios floated above the city, large and powerful, its engines humming with energy. The soft blue glow from its core bathed the planet's upper atmosphere. Guardian's calm voice echoed across communication channels, reaching both civilians and human allies on the hidden moon base. External threat confirmed. Enemy fleet size increasing. Tactical advantage. Humans and allies at 47%. Commander Lysa leaned over her console, her eyes sharp and unwavering. "Guardian, what do you need to tip the scale in our favor?" "A coordinated ground and aerial strategy is recommended," Guardian replied. "Partial engagement of enemy forces will yield maximum efficiency." Dr. Caden nodded, adjusting his glasses. "The quantum heart is fully operational. Every time it blocks an attack, it gains energy. The more they fire, the stronger Helios becomes." Relin watched as the first Vrax ship moved closer to the planet, aiming for the museum ruins. It fired energy pulses, but Helios countered immediately. The pulses bounced off its shields harmlessly. Some reflected back toward enemy ships, disabling their engines. Sparks and flashes lit up the dark skies like fireworks in a festival. But there was no celebration here, only survival. A group of Vrax cruisers approached from the far side of the planet. They had not learned from their first encounter. Their weapons glowed with crimson light, and their hulls were larger than Helios itself. Admiral Terran Vrax's voice came through their comm channels, filled with anger and disbelief. "You are not supposed to survive, human ship. I will not allow it." Helios responded with calm precision. Its hull rotated, revealing plasma arc launchers that had been hidden for decades. Long, thin beams of energy fired simultaneously, disabling the closest cruiser's weapon systems. One cruiser spun uncontrollably before colliding with another, creating a chain reaction that shook the surrounding fleet. Relin held his notebook tightly. "It's amazing," he whispered. "It's not just fast, it's smarter than them." On the ground, citizens peeked from the rubble, marveling at the glowing ship above. Parents held children close while small groups of volunteers carried supplies and guided the frightened population to safety. Despite the chaos, a quiet courage spread through the city. People were beginning to believe that Helios was not just defending. They could fight too. Helios's drones deployed again. These small hovering machines zipped around the battlefield, disabling enemy weapon systems and shielding civilians. Some of the drones carried supplies for the injured, dropping first aid kits and water to those trapped in damaged buildings. The Vrax soldiers fired at them, But the drone's agility was unmatched. They seemed alive, moving with precision that no human or alien could match. Admiral Terran gritted his teeth, furious. "This is impossible. They cannot fight like this." Relin noticed the drones hovering near the museum's center, forming a protective circle around a group of civilians. "They care about everyone," he whispered. "Not just the fight." The humans on the moon base coordinated with Helios. Commander Lysa directed small strike teams in the orbiting satellites, sending tactical information directly to Guardian. The AI processed each detail in milliseconds, making decisions faster than anyone could comprehend. Every attack from the Vrax fleet was met with a precise counter. Every move predicted and blocked. On the planet's surface, a few brave soldiers who had escaped the initial invasion returned to support the civilians. They carried small weapons not to fight Helios, but to hold positions and protect escape routes. They followed Guardian's commands, moving in harmony with the ship's energy shields and drones. Slowly, the tide of fear began to turn. Relin's heart raced as Helios executed its most daring maneuver yet. The warship descended into the upper atmosphere, spinning gently. Its energy pulse expanded outward in a wide wave, temporarily disabling all enemy weapons within range. The cruisers wobbled, struggling to regain control. Helios had not attacked to destroy yet. It had attacked to disable, giving civilians time to evacuate. "That's genius," Dr. Caden said. "Guardian isn't just a warship. It's a protector." Admiral Terran growled in frustration. "Increase firepower. I will not allow humans to survive." The Vrax fleet retaliated with synchronized attacks, sending beams of red energy toward Helios. But the warship responded calmly. Its shields expanded, reflecting some attacks and absorbing others. The energy from each blast fed into the quantum heart at the core, making the ship stronger with every strike. The more the Vrax fired, the more Helios adapted. It was a perfect balance between defense and offense, an ancient machine working with centuries of hidden knowledge. Relin's eyes widened as Helios deployed another tactic. Its side panels opened, revealing sleek, smaller craft tucked inside the hull. These auxiliary ships darted out into the Vrax fleet, disrupting formations and disabling several cruisers simultaneously. Each move was precise, coordinated, and entirely unexpected. The Vrax commanders had no time to react. They were forced to retreat, regroup, and rethink their strategy. The citizens below watched as Helios hovered over the planet like a guardian angel. Some wept openly, tears of relief and admiration streaming down their faces. Parents held children tightly, feeling hope for the first time in what seemed like forever. The museum ruins glowed softly in the ship's reflected light, reminding everyone that what was once forgotten could still protect them. Relin turned to a group of frightened children who had been hiding nearby. "Don't be afraid," he said gently. "It's here to protect us." The children stared in awe as Helios shifted above, its engines glowing bright blue. It was not only a warship, it was alive, aware, and willing to defend the innocent. In orbit, the Vrax Dominion was reeling. Their larger ships had sustained damage and many of their systems were offline. The fleet commander tried to coordinate attacks, but every move seemed anticipated and countered. Helios was not just a machine. It was a force of strategy, precision, and intelligence that they could not comprehend. Admiral Terran slammed his fists on the command table. "How is this possible? How can an old relic be stronger than our entire fleet?" His officers remained silent, their eyes wide with fear. Some whispered among themselves, realizing that underestimating humans and their technology had been a grave mistake. Back on the planet, Helios descended closer to the city. Its drones moved with incredible speed, guiding civilians away from danger zones and creating temporary barriers against collapsing buildings. The warship was not just fighting the Vrax, it was protecting the people it had been entrusted to defend. Every move was precise, calculated, and deliberate. Relin stood on the museum roof, heart swelling with admiration. "It's more than a ship," he whispered. "It's hope, courage, humanity." The warship hovered above, its lights glowing like a beacon of safety. Guardian's voice echoed calmly over communication channels. "Threat assessment complete. Civilian safety 98%. Enemy fleet neutralized 30%. Relin smiled. "It's working. We're winning." The sky above Arion 3 was still filled with flashes of blue and red light, but the tone of the battle had changed. The Vrax Dominion no longer looked unstoppable. They were faltering. Helios' precision, Strength and strategy had shifted the balance. The people of the planet, once afraid and desperate, now had hope. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, its light mingled with the glow of Helios energy. The city below looked battered but not broken. Civilians stepped out of hiding, cheering softly as the ship hovered above. Even the ground soldiers who had returned to protect their people now felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, under Helios's guidance, they could survive this attack. Relin looked up at the ship, his notebook held tightly to his chest. "You saved us, and you're only beginning." Helios's engines hummed softly, almost like a purr of satisfaction. Guardian's voice spoke clearly. "Mission status ongoing. Protection and defense continue. Threat level decreasing. Hope established." The young cadet smiled. He had been right all along. Helios was not a relic. It was alive, powerful, and full of purpose. It had awoken at the perfect time to turn the tide of battle. For the first time in decades, humans and their creations were remembered not for what they had lost, but for what they could still achieve. And above the planet, the legendary warship floated like a guardian angel, ready to face whatever came next. The city of Arian 3 lay quiet in the early morning light, but the air was still thick with tension. The distant hum of Helios's engines echoed through the streets, a reminder to the citizens that their protector was above them, watching and ready. The Vrax Dominion had retreated for the moment, but Admiral Terran's fleet was far from defeated. They would return, stronger and more determined than before. Relin stood near the top of the museum ruins, his golden eyes fixed on the hovering warship. He had never felt such awe in his life. Helios was no longer a rusted relic. It was alive, powerful, and aware. Every time its shields flared or its drones moved to protect civilians, it reminded him why humans had once been feared and respected across the galaxy. "They will come back," he whispered. "We need to be ready." From the moon base, Commander Lysa and Dr. Caden observed Helios's position in the city below. The humans had spent decades in preparation for this day, hiding the ancient warship, training in secret, and waiting for the moment when it would be needed. That day had arrived. "Guardian," Commander Lysa said calmly, "what is the status of our defense systems?" "All primary shields are operational," Guardian replied. "Civilians accounted for. Energy reserves full. Enemy detection shows that the Vrax fleet is regrouping beyond orbital range. Likely return in several hours." Dr. Caden adjusted his console. "The quantum heart has absorbed so much energy during the last battle. It has reached nearly full capacity. Helios could now withstand an entire armada." "Yes," Commander Lysa said, her eyes hard and determined. "And we'll need every ounce of that strength." Back on the surface, Relin moved through the streets, helping guide citizens from damaged buildings. The city had survived the first wave, but it was still fragile. People were scared, but hope was growing. Seeing Helios hovering above like a guardian made them believe they could survive anything. A small child ran up to Relin, pointing at the glowing ship. "It's alive! It's protecting us!" Relin smiled gently. "Yes, it is protecting us. And we must help each other too." Helios's drones moved between buildings carrying water, supplies, and messages for stranded civilians. They worked in harmony with the humans, creating a sense of order in the chaos. The warship was more than a machine. It was a teacher, showing everyone that courage and teamwork could make a difference even in the darkest hour. In orbit, the Virax fleet had regrouped. Admiral Terran scowled at his monitors. "Our fleet was humiliated by a single human ship. How is this possible? We have the numbers, the weapons, everything." His officers remained silent, fear in their eyes. They had never faced an enemy so unpredictable, so precise, so alive. Every attack they tried had been countered before they could adjust. The humans, it seemed, had something the Vrax had forgotten: cleverness, courage, and strategy combined with technology. "We strike again," Terran growled, "and we strike harder. Prepare the full fleet, no mercy. We will take that planet." Back on Arian 3, Relin felt the tension. He looked at Helios as it hovered, wings of blue energy flaring gently in the morning sun. "Guardian," he called softly, "we are ready. Protect everyone again." Guardian's voice spoke through the ship, calm and powerful. "Acknowledged. Defensive and offensive protocols remain in place. Civilians are safe. Prepare for enemy return." Suddenly, small flashes appeared in the sky. Vrax fighters scouting ahead, moving carefully, trying to avoid detection. Helios immediately responded. Its engines flared, spinning the massive hull with unbelievable speed. Small drones launched, forming a barrier around the city and intercepting incoming fighters. Explosions lit up the sky, but Helios avoided every strike. Relan's heart raced. "It's not just defending," he whispered. "It's teaching them a lesson." From the moon base, Commander Lysa observed the battle, guiding strike teams and coordinating with Guardian. "The more they attack, the stronger Helios becomes," she said. "It's learning faster than they are." Dr. Caden nodded, awe in his eyes. "The quantum heart absorbs energy from every attack. It strengthens the shields and weapons simultaneously. Every failed attack gives Helios an advantage. By the time they reach the planet fully, it will be nearly unstoppable." Hours passed. The Vrax fleet moved closer, forming massive lines of ships and energy cannons. They had learned from their first encounter, but Helios had also learned. Its shields pulsed like a living heartbeat. Drones moved with perfect timing, and the quantum heart glowed brightly at the core. The warship was fully awake now, and the galaxy could see it. Admiral Terran's voice boomed across communication channels, filled with anger and disbelief. "You are a single ship. How can you resist an entire fleet?" Helios's response was calm, deep, and unwavering. "Protection is my purpose. Threats will not harm the innocent." Terran's officers glanced at each other nervously. They had never heard such confidence from a machine before, and yet Helios's actions proved it. Every strike they launched was countered. Every movement they made was predicted. Their fleet faltered under the weight of a single ship, one that they had once laughed at as a rusted relic. On the ground, citizens watched the battle unfold in the skies above. Their fear had turned to hope. They began helping each other, guiding the injured, clearing debris, and preparing shelters. Helios's presence had reminded them that courage was contagious. Humanity's bravery, even in the form of an ancient warship, had inspired the planet to rise together. Relan moved to a higher rooftop, his notebook in hand. "You're amazing," he whispered, eyes wide. "You're more than I ever imagined." Inside Helios, Guardian detected the approaching fleet and analyzed the patterns of attack. "Full engagement recommended," the AI said calmly. "Enemy strength decreasing due to failed coordination. Probability of victory 87%. Commander Lysa on the moon base nodded. "Then end this. Protect the planet. Show them why humans were feared." Helios ascended higher, engines glowing like white fire. Its drones swarmed, creating a protective barrier around the city. Energy beams fired in precise patterns, disabling cruisers, destroying weapons, and forcing enemy ships to scatter. The sky lit up with flashes of blue, red, and white like a living storm. Admiral Terran's fleet faltered completely. They tried to regroup, but every maneuver was countered. One by one, their ships were disabled, forced to retreat or destroyed. The human warship, once forgotten and mocked, now commanded the battlefield with elegance and power. Relan's heart pounded as he watched the battle. Citizens cheered, lifting their arms to the sky. Families embraced each other, tears running down their faces. Hope had returned to Arian 3, and all of it had been brought back by the legendary ship that the galaxy had once laughed at. Finally, the last of the Vrax ships retreated. The fleet disappeared into distant space, leaving the planet safe for the first time in decades. Helios hovered above the city, engines glowing softly, shields shimmering faintly, drones still circling to ensure complete safety. Relan lowered his notebook, feeling a deep sense of relief. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved us." Guardian's voice echoed calmly through the city. "Threat eliminated. Civilians secure. Planet safe." The citizens slowly came out from hiding, their faces filled with awe and gratitude. Parents lifted children, pointing at the glowing ship above. Artists, historians, and travelers alike marveled at the sight. Helios, the rusted relic once mocked, had become a symbol of courage, hope, and humanity's enduring spirit. Commander Lysa on the moon base smiled. "The legend has begun," she said softly. "Helios will be remembered not for what it was, but for what it did." Dr. Caden nodded. "It's a reminder that strength comes not just from technology, but from courage, teamwork, and determination." Relan watched Helios descend gently toward the museum's upper platforms. The ship's glow bathed the ruins in soft light, making the damaged buildings look almost peaceful. Drones carried supplies, patched small fires, and guided citizens back to safe areas. Helios was not just a warship. It was a guardian, a teacher, and a symbol of hope for everyone. As the sun rose fully over Arian 3, the city slowly returned to life. People cleaned the streets, helped the injured, and rebuilt their homes. The warship hovered silently above, watching, ready to protect again if needed. Relin stood in the museum ruins, looking at Helios one last time that morning. "You are amazing," he said softly. "The galaxy will never forget you." And Helios's engines hummed gently, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant that had awakened just in time. Its legend, once forgotten and mocked, had risen anew. Across the stars the tale would spread. A human warship that came alive when the galaxy needed it most, defending the innocent, inspiring courage, and proving that humanity, though once underestimated, could always rise above. Above the planet, Helios lights glowed bright and steady, a symbol of hope and courage. Below, the citizens of Arian 3 cheered quietly, tears in their eyes. Humanity's courage had triumphed once more, not through fear but through bravery, intelligence, and the enduring spirit of those who never gave up. The Vrax Dominion would remember the day a rusted relic became a legend, and the galaxy would never underestimate humans again.